My first ever memory riding a motorcycle in Baja, I think I was around 10, 11 years old. We just brought a little pit bike down there and it was pretty fun, you know. I think it was like for my birthday or something. Like we rode pit bikes on the beach and literally I would ride my pit bike, park it, go grab my board and go surf. So, you know, that was pretty much my first ever memories of Baja and I had a blast. I grew up in Bali, Indonesia for 10 years, but going back to Mexico, a third world country, kind of brings me back to my roots. In Bali, I used to go ride and surf and ride out in sand beaches, and you can kind of do that in Baja too, especially when you go out with friends, you know, you kind of have those like great memories that will forever last a lifetime, and I think that's why I love Baja so much. It's kind of close to home. So when I first moved out here to California, I raced any race I could possibly race. I used to race flat track, motocross, and NGPCs. I did a couple of off-road races, kind of progressed. You know, I rode out in Johnson Valley on the weekends when it was when the tracks would be shut down because it was raining, or just in general. I used to go ride in the desert. I used to have a little big tank on my 65, and yeah, that's just kind of how my off-road riding kind of progressed. One of my early mentors, and you know, I kind of see him as an uncle, Forge Minchington, his dad and a couple of his buddies started a compound in the middle of Johnson Valley, and we used to go out there for weekends and weekdays, ride, you know, the lake beds and the dunes and the trails and the sand whoops. That kind of helped me with racing and kind of motivated me to ride more off-road.
You know, when I first met him, he was probably, I said he's probably 5 years old. As to see him kind of grow into the style, he's got this effortless style that is sort of a throwback to, I think, some of the old days. Also just, you know, something that I always loved, doing it all, not just being pigeonholed to one genre of riding. He does it all, and for him, like at that time, Kelana was still living in Bali, and he came over and I took him out to the desert. He went out to the compound, and you know, it was like, being in Bali, you have these tiny little areas where you can ride, and there it's just this open expanse as far as you can see, and it was I think it was mind-blowing for him at the time, and you know, it was also a whole new learning experience to just be able to go wide open across the desert and have to look for hidden dangers and going that fast. Probably never gone that fast for that long in his life, and you know, for them it was all about motocross, and he sort of, I think, unlocked this whole new world for him, and I think kind of got him interested in desert racing and Baja, which is, you know, for me that was the ultimate, just combining the surf and the desert, and Kelana being from Bali, I think we shared that same passion for those two things, and it started his Baja love affair.
With people that aren't familiar with Baja, you pretty much get 2 weeks, a week to pre-run the course after they release it. Monday, pre-ran the course, pre-ran the first 100 miles. Second day, pre-ran the last 100 and something miles. Pretty much cycled through that twice, and after that, you know, you kind of get the course dialed, but you know, it's really hard to remember that exact rock that you hit or that exact spot you hit after there's 250 miles of it. That's pretty tough, but yeah, pretty much the whole goal is to memorize the course as much as you can. After pre-running the Thursday before, we do tech and contingency. Pretty much what that is you go to the registration, go to the Score building. It's an organization that organized, you know, the San Felipe 250, and pretty hard to convince them for me to race, you know. Technically, you're supposed to be 16, you're supposed to have a driver's license. After a couple of long phone calls with my dad and the organization, kind of showed them like, hey, I've pre-ran the course before, I've ridden Baja a bunch of times, and my dad's gonna be there so he can sign off for me and do all the forms and all the waivers.
Well, Kelana, this is the 50th year of the Score Baja celebration, and you're our youngest rider. I think to record. I wish you all the luck.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
It's so exciting to have you.
After that, you go up, talk to an announcer, kind of show off your bike, say what's up to the fans, meet the crowd, take pictures, give out stickers, and kind of meet some of the sponsors that are down there. So that's really cool to engage with the locals, kind of support what they do and see their culture. When I was 5, 6 years old, Dad turned on Gust of Glory for the first time, and man, watching that was unreal. I remember being a little kid and watching Johnny Campbell and all them ride. I was like, wow, I want to do this one day. It's definitely a dream. And I think it was 2022, I went pre-running down there, first time on a big bike. And I pre-ran the course, and I realized ever since then, I'm like, man, it's possible. Like, I can do this, and I really want to. And pretty much after that, I was like, dang, I got to convince my dad somehow how I'm going to race it, and I got to convince all my sponsors, and how do I do it safely. Getting the GoPro all set up. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really nervous. Actually, the battery died last night, so we had to do a swap over at 4:30 in the morning. But besides that, we're all good. Just gonna reformat the GoPro, and we will be good to go. Super excited. A little bit nervous too, Ironmaning, but hey, it's just a long trail ride, 262 miles, baby. Let's get it. What was going through my mind in the start of the race? Man, a million things, really. Like, it's crazy. I was getting flashbacks through my mind of watching Dust of Glory when I was a little kid. My main thing I was really focused on was I need to finish this race. I don't care if I win, I get last, I don't care how I do. I need to finish this race, and I need to be safe out there. Took off, did a little wheelie, did about 2 corners in town. I see a little work truck, and in Baja, there's pedestrians out on the streets. Like, they kind of close it down, but they don't really close it down. So 2 turns, I'm still in town. I get lost, made a wrong turn, and I see a bunch of spectators. I'm like, yeah, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, what am I doing, Kelana? Like, you are where the spectators are. Track's that way. And I try to cut across. We got spectators looking at me like, you shouldn't be out here. And I, back course, popped a little sand berm, and that was a little embarrassing. Pretty much my biggest goal for the start of the race was to catch Chris as quick as I can, and then kind of just ride along. Fortunately, me and Chris weren't too far apart. Go under the famous San Felipe bridge. There's fans everywhere, and cool enough, I passed the guy there, so that was pretty cool. I think they got a little bit of local points there. Passed him, I'm like, all right, yeah, I can catch Chris now, like, kind of boosted my confidence. And then, caught up to another guy, passed him, like, all right, show, Chris should be right up here, and caught him, and I was like, all right, calm down, you can do this, you can finish. It's pretty hard to convince your dad when you're a 15-year-old kid wanting to race 250 miles in the middle of Mexico.
I said no multiple times. Him and Chris kept coming after me like, hey, let's make a team. And I wasn't into the idea of Kelana racing down in Baja, especially the Score events. It's it's notoriously dangerous.
But me and my boy Chris Gill had a plan.
And the idea was that they Ironman it. I'm like, Ironman, that's as gnarly as anything. And they're like, no, we'll do the 250, we'll stick together, we'll have a cruisy pace.
We'll ride side by side through the whole course, pretty much through the buddy system. If any of us gets hurt or anything, we'll be there, help out as much as we can.
And at that point I was like, yeah, that makes sense now. If one of them gets hurt, the other one can go either help them out or go get help. At that point, I agreed to it, and that's how it all started.
pretty much the hardest part of Baja. It's mentally challenging. You gotta stay as focused as you can, and you gotta hit your marks. And the good example is one time I lost a little focus, got a little too close to a bush, hand blew off. Just stuff like that just happens all the time in Baja, and that's also just kind of the risk of losing focus and crashing. But after that, try to stay focused for an hour or two and then get sketchy then. You're like, all right, let me focus up. And that's just kind of the cycle the whole entire race. At that point, we were passing mile marker number 70, I think, and that was when me and Chris stopped for our first pit. Feeling good, feeling excited. Nice to stop for a couple seconds and go on, and I was excited for the journey ahead of me. 100 miles in, I'm like, yeah, baby, like I'm almost halfway through the race, let's go. Like I'm motivated, I'm ready to go. Head into check one, where they kind of, just check out the bike, headed to my pit.
You guys okay? Yeah. No, how are you?
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Pretty good, I think. It's been pretty smooth. Just been cruising. Crashed twice in mini summit.
Like almost full.
I'm almost full. That's good. All right. Just close. Did you open it?
Where'd you crash at?
I crashed at mini summit twice. Just a gnarly, rocky section.
Did you get held up? I saw Chris was pretty far ahead of you. You guys all good?
Yeah, we're all good.
Sip it. Can you sip it? I just want to make sure it's attached.
Got my hydration pack refilled and was ready to go. Go to press the button and battery's dead. I'm like, dang, like what are we supposed to do? I just finished half the course and there's no way I go out like this, like there's no way I go out from my battery dying. Like that's just sad, like living out your childhood dream and just to end the race like that. Lucky there's a road right there, so we tried to jump my bike. That wasn't working. At that point, I was like, all right, we're done. Like that's the end of it. Like we're screwed. Luckily, Baja pits had a jumper cable, so took off the seat, jumped the battery, turned the lights off, bike started, and we were off. But from that 100-mile on, I couldn't turn my bike off. If I turned my bike off, I would be stuck in the middle of the desert. I just remember, like right after I left, I just hear my dad radioing me.
Kelana, do you read? If your bike dies, it could be the stator, so you cannot stall that thing no matter what. Make sure your light's off, because that could be draining it as well.
I can't hear you anymore.
Turn your light off, turn your light off.
And that just really stuck for me for the rest of the race. Cannot turn my bike off.
About a week before the event, Kelana's athlete manager from Red Bull calls me, and he's like, why is Kelana doing this? Like, why does he need to do this now? Seems really dangerous for a 15-year-old. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And he was calling me for all the right reasons. He cares a lot about Kelana, he cares about his safety.
Yeah, Red Bull was like, dang, why would you do this? You're 15 and Baja is gnarly, it's dangerous, and which is totally understandable. I mean, if I was a sponsor looking at a 15-year-old kid, I'd be like, man, why is this kid racing Baja?
And so I explained the situation, and he got it. He actually called Kelana into his office too, and like, hey, what's the deal here? Like, why are you doing this? I mean, it's like, why do we let Kelana do a lot of things? Why do we let him hit 160-foot jumps, Like, why we let him on a supercross track? There's a lot of things like that, although Baja's a whole different deal. But I try not to hold him back.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was actually scared and worried about him. Not because I didn't think he was capable or that he had the skill, or more just because, I love the kid. I was worried about him. It's a dangerous place to go, and it's taken me a whole lifetime of riding and racing to understand the dangers and injuries or whatever. And
You gotta respect the risk, and you gotta understand like Baja is dangerous, from the elements of the rocks, the sand, the cactus, everything, Baja's a dangerous sport. There's been so many greats that have unfortunately passed away. One of the greatest desert racers, Danny Hamel, passed away in the 90s. I had the honor to meet Juan Zunino in Tekken Contingency. Unfortunately, pre-running for the 500 last June, he passed away. It's real eye-opening. Like, dude, I met this guy, I shook his hand, we took photos together, he was smiling, he was a great guy. It's sad, man. It's sad, but unfortunately he's gone, and that's the risk we take doing what we love. Halfway through the race, it's about 4 hours, 4.5 hours through the race, and you know, it's starting to kind of get to you, starting to wear out, fingers start hurting, your back starts cramping, your calves, like everything just starts to hurt. After that second pit, Chris hits a rock 5 miles from the pit and crashes, and his bike's all tweaked and he's hurting. You know, helped him pick his bike up, helped him get going, and we stopped at that last pit on the road.
Don't shut your bike off. You all good?
We're at mile 210 right now. I'm definitely feeling it. It's been a long ride. I'm not gonna lie with you, it's been a long ride, but I'm happy coming to the last 40 miles. Chris crashed pretty good. Like, I don't even know, 3 miles back. And yeah, I crashed probably like 15 miles ago. It was like slow, but went over the bars. I was really scared my bike was gonna turn off, but it's all good. And yeah, we're gonna regroup, straighten everything out, and go back out there.
And at that point, we're only like 50 miles from finish, and this is when it starts to kind of feel the emotions of like, okay, maybe I actually finish, maybe I do this. So we're about 30 miles away from the finish line. I guess he just took a different, smoother, shortcut line, and I lost him. In my head, I'm thinking worst case scenario, like Chris is gone, like dang, he crashed, he could be dead. I don't know like what happened. Like he could be seriously hurt. He's already banged up, his bike's already bent up. I pulled over, heard a little static from the radio, but I didn't know. I tried to call him. I went for another, I don't know, 2-3 miles. We were about 5 miles to where we could see my dad and Ashley, and I was like, all right, maybe worst case scenario, they know where he is. So I just kept riding, and then, you know, my dad radios me. You gotta be kidding me. I just wasted all that time waiting. I was definitely mad, and I was like, all right, I just gotta send it. It was one of the hardest part of the race, dude. It was like 5 miles of straight whoops. We're probably ripping like 40, 50 down the whoops, and I'm like, my back's hurting, I'm pissed off. I'm like, all right, dude, I gotta hold it wide. You know, the quicker I'm gonna go through these whoops, the quicker I'm gonna finish. So got through the whoops and, you know, crossed the road. All right, Dad, I'll see you in 3 miles from the finish line, hopefully. Right as I go off and my dad pulls away, there's this silty, ruddy 2-track, and I couldn't really see that good, and I took the front. I was praying, you know, like that bike would start, and luckily the batteries, I guess, recharged. I don't know. I really thank Baja gods, and my bike started. But hey, I still had to make it to the finish line. I still had to, you know, that's at that point on, that's where the trophy trucks reconnect, and I can't stop. So started off the bike, wiped my goggles off real quick, got off, and I was just pinning it. And at that point, there's just hundreds of spectators watching you, filming you, and you know, you don't want to look bad in front of them. And it goes, what? You can see that one video, I'm just pinning it down up that hill. I hit a little rock, get a little sideways, but still, you know, I was pinning it, and yeah, and then I entered town. I saw San Felipe again. And after that, I was just like, wow, I finished. So it was just a really special moment, and it was a lifetime goal, and it was a bucket list that I finished, and you know, I got a little emotional. And yeah, it was one of the greatest feelings I think I've ever felt in my life. Just the gratitude and knowing you've put yourself through hell, and you did it, you finished. I just did one of the hardest races in the world, and I finished, and to be the youngest to finish, that's that's really special, you know.